Happy Friday! Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. We've got two stacked, packed, racked, wild hours for you to get to so much today. Tom Haberstroh going to join us in about half an hour. A lot to go through in the NBA there. And Mike Florio going to join us from Pro Football Talk. We'll get the latest on some controversy everywhere. It's a good morning for a lot of people. All right, Philly fans, we're just here to give you a warm hug. All right, if you're watching from the city of Philadelphia, we love you. We're sorry. It was a rough night. We'll get to all of it. Caroline Fenton, let's start the show like we start every show. 3 points. What is on your mind, my friend?
News updates.
Yeah, Philly fans, just turn it off, turn away, just protect your peace this morning because, what a brutal way to lose in baseball and in football last night. But we are looking on the diamond because it was game 4 last night between the Dodgers and the Phillies. The Dodgers just needed to win. They advanced to the NLCS. The Phillies needed to hold on to win game 4 to force a game 5. The bases were loaded, 2 outs, 11th inning, everything on the line. A whole lot of zeros in the box score, all tied up at 1-1 until young Phillies reliever Orion Kirkring was in the middle of an absolute chaos scenario and committed the fatal error that you absolutely just cannot make. All he needed to do was throw it to Bryce Harper at first base. You force it, another inning, you live to die another day, but the pressure set in, the postseason yips took over, and instead he threw it home. And not only did he throw it home, he sailed it over home and actually allowed Ha-Seong Kim to score the game winner. The Dodgers take it 2-1. And when you have a young player that makes a mistake that really little league players know not to make, it just makes it hurt just that much worse. The Phillies are heading home and the Dodgers are heading right back to the NLCS. But in other news, we do have a game 5, at least in one series. The Cubs did it. They blanked the Brewers last night to win it 6-0, really led by a 3-run Ian Happ home run in the first inning. That's all they needed. They had on a couple of runs later in that game as well, but they'll head back to Milwaukee for a game 5 winner take all to the NLCS.
Yeah, the best words in all of sports. Game 5. All right,
Game 5.
Let's get
Or 7.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with game 5 in this case. I'll get
depends.
to my first point. It's a little bit early, but it's never too early to look at some of the news that we have around opening day of the NBA season. And we now know officially that LeBron James will not be part of opening day festivities. He is sidelined for at least 3 to 4 weeks due to sciatica, I should learn to speak, on his right side. He's out for the start of the 25-26 season. Now, of course, when you talk about playing at an advanced stage, it's easy to look at these things and say, he's missing time. It's going to be one of those years. I don't know. I do know that this is the first time in his career he won't be out for an opening day. He won't be on the court for an opening day. And that for all of us just feels like a little bit of a letdown. But let's also remember how we judge LeBron James. If LeBron James comes out in the opening game and throws down 40 points and the Lakers look great, it will not matter if he's not healthy at the end of the year. The only thing that matters for LeBron, the only thing that matters for the Lakers is how healthy can they keep him at the end of the season. And I think it's okay to admit that at his age, managing his health is going to be part of what you have to do if you run the Lakers organization. So there's no shock to me that they're going to be cautious. There's no chaos to me because he's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe it just means his golf game took a little out of him this summer. Maybe it just means that he's got a little nerve thing. One thing I can tell you, as you get older, your body definitely doesn't cooperate the same way. I don't care if you're an athlete or not. At some point, your body catches up. The question's going to be for all of us, is this just 3 to 4 weeks and then everything's sunshine and roses from there? Or is this something greater? That is what we will keep our eye on. But as long as we get LeBron in February, March, April, as long as we have LeBron in June playing in the playoffs, none of us will worry about the first 3 to 4 weeks of the NBA season. It's just a letdown for the magic we all love of opening night. All right, let's get to our top point, Caroline Fenton, and that comes in Thursday Night Football. It was a shocker, shock and awe everywhere. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care if the Giants win. I don't care if the Giants lose. What I care about right now is the New York Football Giants have hope. That is what you get when your young quarterback comes out and is just an absolute beast. And yet again, on a short week with very little time to prepare, it was all about the young guns for the Giants, particularly Cam Scatterbo and, of course, Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart was so good in this game. You could see it. You could feel it. The broadcast talked about the palpable energy over and over and over again. I'm telling you, Caroline, more important than wins and losses. If the Giants finish 6-11 this year, Giants fans, the Giants organization, nobody's going to give a damn as long as Jackson Dart keeps doing what he's doing, because right now it looks like the Giants got their guy.
And it's fun. Like, that was such a fun Giants team to watch last night. Not even just offensively, not even just some of the explosive plays that we saw, but Cam Scadaboo ripping his shirt off on the broadcast. He and Jackson Dart doing the Thriller dance in the end zone. Like, this is a Giants team with swagger. This is a Giants team that is so incredibly fun to watch. And frankly, Fitz, I don't know if I could pinpoint a Giants team in my lifetime that I can say has swagger. So if nothing else, at least they're fun to watch. If nothing else, at least we have a couple of stories that we can fall in love with, whether it's the young quarterback in Jackson Dart that's playing like he's not a young quarterback getting his third start in the league, and also not acting like he's a young quarterback getting his first few starts in the league. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. I don't say that because I think what Jackson Dart is doing is wrong. I'm just saying we don't see that typically in young quarterbacks that are still trying to find their way into the league. He is acting with a sense of swagger that we do not see very frequently from young quarterbacks in this league. And that's just incredibly fun to watch. How sustainable is it? I don't know. I don't know how sustainable it is for Jackson Dart to be running the football the way that he is and taking some of the hits that he's taking. But, that might be a conversation for a different story. That's a conversation for Monday. On Friday, just several hours removed from that game, I think right now we can just enjoy the joy that we all got out of watching that team last night. And I know it's early. I know we're only 3 games in. I know we're only 3 starts in. But with statement wins over the Chargers and a divisional rival who you absolutely hate, beating them down the way that they did last night, I think right now you can say things can change, but right now you can say, yes, the Giants did get their guy. And yes, Brian Daboll did stake his future on the right guy.
There's a spark plug energy to certain people that's bigger than anything they do just in the numbers or on the stat sheet. Like there are some people that walk into the room and light it up. And one thing that is so apparent when you cover the NFL for more than 2 seconds is that for a lot of players in the league, it's a business. It's how they feed their families. It's what they've done their entire life. Yes, they enjoy playing, but at the end of the day, it's a business. It is their family business. When you get somebody that comes in that has this level of just energy, that has this level of, to your point, joy when they play, when you've got somebody in that's literally high-fiving a ref that's in the middle of trying to make a call on whether or not it was a touchdown or not, there is just a youthful energy, and I mean this in an incredibly complimentary way, that reminds me of Elf. Like sometimes you need Will Ferrell and Elf to come in and just remind you that New York's a magical place. Like everybody gets so caught up sometimes in the business of the NFL. To me, what really stands out from the minute he walks on the field is that the energy picks up for everybody because he's having fun, because it feels different when he jogs onto the field. Russell Wilson had to come into this game, and it was an abject disaster for the couple of plays that he was in the game, and you could feel the energy drop. Certain guys and girls walk on the field and the court for whatever they do, and because of their aura around it, as cheesy as that sounds, they light up the room. They light up the team. That's what Jackson's doing. That's why I think there's so much hope. And I distinctly remember Derek Carr's rookie year for me as a Raiders fan. I hadn't seen a quarterback that was worth a you-know-what in a long time. And that team started 0-10. And I remember when they finally won their first game, I was so happy because at the end of the day, I didn't care about wins and losses. I felt like my team had found their quarterback for a long time. And I was sitting next to a Giants fan last night watching this game, and just the joy on his face with every single play. Just kept thinking, man, that's what hits different. Everybody feels it in the room, and that's what makes Jackson so special right out of the gate. We'll see how the football works out, Caroline, but right now, the energy is just palpable from the dude.
It feels college-esque. And again, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. That's not me trying to dilute what we saw last night. I mean that with all of the love in my heart. understanding how much I love college football. And a reason why I love college football so much is because of the weirdness of it, the unadulterated joy and youthful, jovial feel that you have from just kids playing football and having fun doing it. That's what we saw last night. This youthful energy, this kind of college type of joy that I felt like they got out of playing. That probably still would have been my takeaway had the Giants lost that game.
Yeah.
Obviously, it feels a whole lot better that you won that game and you won that game in fairly dominant fashion. That it felt like the Giants had control of that game really from the beginning, Fitz. In the beginning, I was like, man, this Giants team looks good. Surely the Eagles are going to turn it on. Surely the Giants are going to mess something up. Surely the Giants are going to giant. And the Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champion, are going to do something about it. But pretty early in the first half, I was like, nope, like the Giants just have a commanding control over this game. So it's both things combined. It's the energy, it's the vibe, it's how we all felt, how much fun we had watching that game last night, combined with how dominant they looked over a team that has largely been dominating the NFL over the last couple of years.
The only thing they couldn't stop in this game was the tush push. And yet again, we find ourselves in tush push news heaven because the Eagles ran it at one point 4 consecutive plays to go in and get their touchdown. And Micah Parsons tweeted out, "This is not football," with 2 trash emojis. Again, this is the debate. This is the debate we always have. Like, who are you to say it is or isn't football because you don't like the way it looks? Like, because that's not the way football is supposed to look. Like, who's the judge and arbiter on that? If your favorite team figures out how to do something that nobody can stop, do you really want the precedent set that, well, we figured out a play that nobody can stop? And, well, unfortunately, people just don't like the way it looks. So we're not going to let you run it anymore. That is absolute BS to its absolute core. You can't just come in and say, okay, and I hear the argument, as the arguments were raging last night, hear the argument, well, look at all the false starts. Okay, then learn to officiate it better. Right? But at some point, what is your real answer for why the tush push can't happen? What makes the tush push illegal? If your answer is you don't like the way it looks, I don't really care what you like when it comes to the way it looks. If your answer is this isn't football, my God, now you sound like the old man on the lawn that's just looking up at the sky screaming, this isn't football. That's what football heads from the 70s say about today's game in general. Don't be that guy. And if your answer is, well, they keep committing penalties, they keep doing false starts, then work with the refs to officiate it properly. But just because refs are bad at their job and your favorite team can't stop it doesn't mean you make something illegal. This is the stupidest thing we're doing right now, Caroline.
Yeah, to that Tom Pelissero point, like if you run the tush push once, obviously we're gonna have tush push conversation, but like all of a sudden, running the tush push 4 times in a row is an issue. Like if you run it once, that's okay. If you run it 4 times in a row, that's fine too. Like that's allowed. Like if you run 4 consecutive run plays, that's allowed. If you run 4 consecutive
It's
pass
common.
plays, that's allowed. Like that's what we do. This is football. And I kept seeing all of these tweets last night of like, yeah, this is not real football. Well, that's what they were saying in the 70s, before, whatever year it was, 50s, 20s, and an Army Navy 3-0 game that, a forward pass wasn't real football. Then the air raid came about and it was like, oh, well, that's not real football. And now we live in a world where we can't imagine, not throwing the ball all around the yard. Like, this is what happens. These are changes that happen and are inevitable in the game. And sometimes changes are uncomfortable. Sometimes you experience growing pains, but the game of football as we know it right now is not the game of football that we had 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Games evolve. And the other thing that I kept hearing, on social media last night was this isn't entertaining. That football should be an entertaining product. At the end of the day, football is a sport, but it's also entertainment. Okay, yeah, but the Philadelphia Eagles don't get paid more or less depending on how entertained you are. Like this isn't a comedy show. Like they don't hand out awards for the most entertaining team in the league. If that were the case, then, I think Baker Mayfield would have a whole lot more trophies in his trophy case because he's incredibly entertaining to watch. The Philadelphia Eagles don't care about the entertainment value of their product. The Eagles and 31 other teams in the National Football League care about winning games. And the tush push gives the Philadelphia Eagles an inherent advantage over every other team in the league until any other team can figure out how to execute the tush push at the level of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I hear you that we all would love to, watch 75 to 72 type of offensive firepower kind of games. We all want to be entertained, right? We all dread those 10 to 7 type of defensive slogfest kind of games. But their prerogative, win football games. Go get entertained somewhere else.
Yeah, I think at some point the entertainment factor is just so subjective. So you're going to stop a team from running the football too much in general because that's not as entertaining.
It's also
it's
just a weak argument.
It's a slippery slope. What about Jalen Hurts overall, though, in this offense? Because the Philadelphia Eagles offense in the last 10 days is suddenly broken. Now, he's 23rd in passing, 16th in passing touchdowns. I mean, look at all those. It is broken. But I also look at it, Carolina, and say as much as we're going to pile on to Jalen Hurts, I thought the play calling looked broken last night. I thought the overall execution looked broken. In 10 days, we've gone from the Eagles are the best team in the NFL to suddenly Jalen Hurts sucks. Like, I can't make that big of a leap down. I think they're just in a rut right now that they need to figure out offensively. And by the way, you weren't going to fix that from Sunday to Thursday on a short week for Thursday Night Football. Let's see what happens over the course of the entire season before we suddenly decide that Jalen Hurts isn't good. I just can't go there.
It's also funny that we're having this conversation today because we weren't having this conversation when the Eagles were winning games. Like when the Eagles weren't throwing the football, but they were 4-0, like nobody had an issue with Jalen Hurts then. All of a sudden you lose a couple of games and the sky is falling. Before I call the Eagles issue a Jalen Hurts issue, I have to call it a Kevin Patullo issue. Kevin Patullo, the Eagles offensive coordinator, because offensive play calling really has been an issue in Philadelphia all season long. I mean, they didn't complete a single pass in the second half of was that week 3, week 4, whatever week that was. They didn't complete a single pass in the second half, and it was fine. It looked ugly. It was gross. Talk about entertainment value. It was ugly. It was gross, but they were able to find a way to win. I think that this is an offensive coordinator not having a good feel for the game kind of issue for the Eagles. Figure that out before you start pointing fingers at Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And by the way, there's just plenty of football left to be had here. Is it broken? Yes. Do they need to figure it out? Yes. They're still the team that won the Super Bowl last year. And as we say all the time, give fat guys a lot of credit and a lot of blame in this. Like they were without a key piece of their offensive line last night. That made a massive difference. So again, There's just context to all of it that's bigger to me than Jalen Hurts. We'll keep breaking it down, but we got NBA action to get to. Tom Haberstroh going to join us next. The Giannis rumors are rampant. We'll look at some actual scenarios of where he could go next.
I think the Nets can offer the best package realistically for Giannis because they could put together some appealing salaries. Nick Claxton, Terrence Mann, Yegor Demin, a rookie. You could plug and play a bunch of different young guys in that place. And they have a ton of draft picks.
That hypothetical Giannis trade came from the KOC show. He sees Giannis landing in Brooklyn. But we're going to continue the speculation now with our very own Tom Haberstroh joining us now. Tom, let's start here. Before we look at the scenarios, do you believe that Giannis is going to be traded this season?
Yes, I am very confident that Giannis Antetokounmpo will be traded this season, and a big reason why is because he has an October 1st, 2026 deadline to sign his max extension. Now, why is that significant? Because in order for him to sign that max extension, he has to be with his team for at least 6 months. That means that if he gets traded this summer to a new team, he will not be able to get that max extension signed. So it is incentivized for him and for other teams that want to sign him long-term to his max to get a deal done before trade deadline. So I suspect that with this really weak roster around him, I did the big number video this week with Dan Devine highlighting how awful this supporting cast is for Giannis Antetokounmpo. It is bottom 5 in the league. And I do think that the roster combined with this max extension deadline that incentivizes and motivates team to get a deal done this season, I think we'll see Giannis packing his bags at some point.
So we heard our guy, KOC, making his pitch for Giannis to the Nets. But let's walk through a hypothetical trade scenario, not to the Nets, but to a different team in New York. Giannis to the Knicks?
Yeah, this is from Shams Charania's report that they had engaged in talks this summer with Milwaukee Bucks fielding a call from the Knicks, but it didn't really go anywhere. And I suspect one of the reasons why it didn't go anywhere is because the Knicks don't have any draft picks. So how do they get a deal done? They go to a team like the Memphis Grizzlies, get on the phone and say, hey, we will send you OG Anunoby, the guy that you wanted a couple years ago trying to send 3-4 first-round picks for when he was with Toronto, and we will send you him, because we got Mikal Bridges and we got Josh Hart, we'll send you him if you guys can facilitate this trade and get Milwaukee some of these first-round picks that they covet. Now remember, Milwaukee doesn't have control over its first-round pick this upcoming season, so they have no incentive to tank. So the Knicks say, hey, we'll give you Karl Anthony Towns, make the salary work. We'll send OG Anunoby over to the Memphis Grizzlies, and you can get your first-round draft picks. Everyone's happy in this trade because, again, Milwaukee Bucks do not have control over their 2026 first-round picks. So if they're terrible, they're not going to reap the benefits because the Atlanta Hawks have acquired the rights to that deal. So this trade checks off the box for the Milwaukee Bucks and that they can stay competitive and have a really good player in Karl Anthony Towns and also get some first-round draft picks. And the Knicks, of course, they're just happy to get their superstar next to Jalen Brunson with Giannis Antetokounmpo. What a deal this would be.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Knicks fans doing cartwheels in the streets just trying to figure this one out. By the way, figuring out these trades, kudos to you. I think you need like 3 degrees in calculus because the math is so hard on NBA trades. Let's get another one. The Rockets obviously all in. So you've got a scenario that can get Giannis to the all-in Rockets. Let's break it down, figure out how this works for the Rockets and what it means for them.
Yeah, the Rockets have the incentive because, of course, Fred VanVleet is out for the season, so it really pushes them to try to win this season even more. When you've got Kevin Durant, the window is a lot more closed than, say, other teams with their star players. So you want to get Giannis Antetokounmpo now, get that max extension. The way you do it is you have to trade either or Jabari Smith or Alperen Sengun. I do not see the Milwaukee Bucks signing off on a trade with the Houston Rockets unless they get Alperen Sengun or Jabari Smith, the really good 22-year-old wing player that's 6'11 and can shoot. Reed Shepherd also been in the doghouse with Ime Udoka, goes to Milwaukee, tries to get the playing time that he needs. And of course, they're going to have to send some of their 9 first-round picks over to Milwaukee to grease the wheels. And of course, you do have Fred VanVleet's contract out for the season with an ACL tear. So his $25 million deal becomes very handy in this trade because it's a good salary matcher for Giannis Antetokounmpo's $54 million salary that they have to match. And of course, he's out for the season, but he does have a trade restriction, guys, which means he cannot be dealt until December 15th. So this trade won't get done if it is on the table, won't get done until at least Christmas time. So we will see what happens with the Houston Rockets this year without Fred VanVleet. It would be kind of cruel to trade him away to a team that's in a rebuild, but this is the NBA and it's all business, baby.
I mean, with that being said, let's go to the next trade that you've got on the block here, because it looks like you've also got a scenario that gets Giannis to Golden State. I feel like everybody's been waiting for some big splash moment here from Golden State. So let's take a look. Let's see if we can get the fake trade that you've got. Giannis going to the Warriors. Tom, what do you got for us on this one?
Yeah, this one, remember, Stephen Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo share the same agency in Octagon, and every All-Star game, we always see them basically having a bromance and having a great time together. And we do know that the Phoenix Suns really coveted Jimmy Butler at the deadline last year, but they could not get a deal done with the Miami Heat. So this is a little bit delayed from what we saw last trade deadline. Jimmy Butler goes to the Phoenix Suns. Giannis Antetokounmpo goes to the Warriors, goes to the Bay, and going to Milwaukee. This is probably the least appealing trade package that Milwaukee would have in the 3 proposals that I have in front of you today. But Jalen Green, 23-year-old shooting guard, goes to Milwaukee along with Dylan Brooks to make the salary work. And then you get a bunch of picks coming from Golden State. Golden State's been sitting on a series of first-round picks, waiting for the right time to do this. And yes, the Phoenix Suns would like to have Jimmy Butler. As we saw last year, a lot of reports that they coveted him. And with Jonathan Kuminga not going to Phoenix in this trade, but who knows? Maybe they create a second trade or expand this trade to get Jonathan Kuminga the home that he wants, where he can spread his wings and become the star that he wants to be. So Phoenix would be incentivized in this deal because they also need to win now with Devin Booker and make sure that Devin Booker's happy. So this is a deal that gets Giannis next to Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Al Horford. I love this trade for Golden State, and we know that Steph Curry wants to win a championship, and I think this would bring him a lot closer to winning another ring and bring it home to the Bay.
Again, I will reemphasize, Tom, like the number of times we have been asked to come up with trade scenarios, and I'm like, nope, I'm not smart enough. You gave us a bunch of these: New York, Houston, Golden State. Which one do you think has the best chance of actually happening?
Well, I'm going to say the New York Knicks only because they've already started talks, and we have heard that Giannis Antetokounmpo wants to be in New York, whether he's going to say that outright or whether it comes through reports. But we did hear Giannis Antetokounmpo say, hey, I'm a Buck now, and that's all that matters. But also, let's check in a couple months. You don't want to hear that from Giannis Antetokounmpo, is basically trying to discredit this report, but also saying, I am not committed long-term. I'm going to reevaluate things as we go. And so the Knicks, having already engaged, I think it gives them a little bit of leg up. I also think there's a chance, guys, that this report from Shams Charania was a way for this to stoke the marketplace and try to get teams from saying, hey, wait a minute, if the Knicks, without picks, are trying to get Giannis, we can get in this Giannis sweepstakes. We got a bunch of picks, and this may be a way to kind of stoke the fires and try to get more action on the trade marketplace. So I do think that Giannis Antetokounmpo will be moved, and if he does get traded, I think the New York Knicks have a solid chance here because the Milwaukee Bucks do not have an incentive to tank, and Karl-Anthony Towns would check that box off for them.
Ooh, Giannis in New York. I love it. We shall see how that pans out. But it would not be a Tom Haberstroh appearance on Yahoo Sports Daily if we didn't hit on Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. And Tom, I am gluttonous for information on this entire story. Every morning I wake up and I check Pablo Torre's Twitter just to see if I can hopefully find some new nuggets and the latest on the Kawhi situation. But the latest that we're kind of hearing is maybe there isn't discourse here with the Los Angeles Clippers and Steve Ballmer. So what's the latest that you've heard? And is there a possibility that the Clippers will face no punishment at all?
Oh, certainly a possibility. Everything's on the table with this deal, especially when you're talking about Adam Silver, who's already said, hey, they are innocent until proven guilty, when the CBA says a lot of language to the contrary, is that it doesn't take this isn't a court of law. This is not the criminal justice system. This is the NBA and the league office, and Adam Silver are going to make a decision. And a lot of this might come down to the appearance of some impropriety, and whether that burden of proof is the same thing for the Clippers as it is for everybody else. We'd like to think that it is, but keep in mind, Adam Silver has already said publicly that he would like to think that every other owner would have the same presumption of innocence before we indict them in some sort of violation. I understand why people say, hey, so what? It's the CBA. The CBA has a lot of language in it that gives him wide latitude, Adam Silver, in figuring out if this is a cap circumvention violation or not. Whether you have a letter that says, I, Steve Ballmer, want to funnel this money through aspiration in order to cap circumvent and give Kawhi Leonard more money. Absent of that letter, and of course that letter would not exist, guys. Absent of that letter, everything is kind of circumstantial evidence. And so for Adam Silver to rule on this, it really is a gray area, something that is going to be more subjective than I think what a lot of fans would like to hear, that this isn't a black and white issue. There's going to be some gray area. And I will say also, him pulling off the All-Star game in terms of saying Steve Ballmer and the Intuit Dome, they are going to be the host of the All-Star game this February. That is an important statement, because David Stern, in the Joe Smith scandal, he went beyond what was in the CBA because he wanted to send a message. He wanted to make a statement, and it went into the courts afterwards when the NBA Players Union said, hey, wait, you can't do that. You're not allowed to go as far as you did in the CBA. And David Stern was like, try me. And so it went to the courts, and they upheld David Stern's position that they should be giving up 5 first-round picks and have his previous contract voided with the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is applicable in this sense with Kawhi Leonard. If Adam Silver wants to throw the book and then some at Steve Ballmer, he probably can. So I think this is interesting that they're already taking off the table the punishment that they would move the All-Star game from the Intuit Dome to, say, Crypto.com Arena. That tells me, that sends a message to me that Adam Silver is going to have a very, very high burden of proof in order to give a Joe Smith-like punishment here. So I know that's not going to make a lot of owners happy and a lot of fans that don't like the Los Angeles Clippers and what they've done here, but I do think that Adam Silver's kind of sending the message out there that this might not be the Joe Smith punishment. This might be something lighter than that.
Yeah, the only thing I need now is Sam Waterston to come back as Jack McCoy and just try the circumstantial evidence like it's an episode of Law and Order. That's what I want, Tom. Real quick, before we get you out of here, LeBron, we mentioned it at the beginning of the show, going to miss the first 3 to 4 weeks. Your level of concern for LeBron, like, is this age? Is this wear and tear? Is this, I don't know, a golf injury? What's your level of concern for LeBron at this point?
I'm going to read a statement from a 40-year-old Los Angeles Laker. Here it is. He posted on Facebook. I suffer from sciatica, and after games, I often can't sit in the car on the drive home, which has made some interesting rides. Most nights, I'm bothered by severe cramping in both calves while I sleep, a result of the same damn nerve routes, and the list goes on somewhat comically. That's what you deserve after playing in the NBA for over 1,300 games. This may be hard for people to understand unless you've been playing NBA basketball, but there's an incredible difference between this game and swinging a golf club, hiking, or even hitting a tennis ball. That was Steve Nash, not LeBron James, back in 2014 when he had announced his retirement because he had so many back problems due to sciatica. This is the same guy that he's hosting a podcast with Mind the Game. Steve Nash had to retire as a 40-year-old with the Lakers because of a lot of these issues. LeBron James is out for at least 3 to 4 weeks, and I would underline at least. This is a really tough situation for LeBron, and it's the first time, you guys, that I can look at LeBron and say, he's acting his age. Yeah, as a 40-year-old, this is something you're going to have to deal with. And for the first time, I'm looking at LeBron as a mortal, a mere mortal, because up to this point, man, he has been someone who has defied all age curves, all health concerns for normal 40-year-olds. And this is the first time I can say he's acting his age.
Check out The Big Number with Tom and Dan Devine every week across the Yahoo Sports Network. Truly, nobody does it better breaking it down than you guys do. Appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging with us, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Great stuff from Tom. And he's right. LeBron's acting his age, but we're just not used to it. All right, coming up, everything is bigger in Texas. Even Wemby, somehow. Good God. We'll tell you about it next. Wemby has grown 2 inches this offseason and now stands at a whopping 7'5". That's right. 21-year-old Victor Wembanyama has grown 2 more inches because he's not done yet. He's at 7
That's a wild graphic.
5. Like, that is just, I mean,
quite the word choice there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you
Maybe
are.
we wanted to add some clarification on that one.
I mean, look, I would love to grow 2 inches. Because I'm 5'9" _1/4, and I would love to be 5'11" _1/4. That's exactly.
Give yourself
all right,
that quarter, Fitz. You've earned it.
Oh, look, I was 5'9" ½ All right, when you get to the age where you start losing the quarter of inches. That's when things just start going downhill. All right, so let's do a little bit of Texas two-step, and I don't mean to cut your music type. I mean, let's go through some of the NBA teams across Texas and answer some of their pressing questions as the NBA season is right around the corner, and not the least of which is, at this point, at 7'5", is Wemby the scariest player in the NBA, Caroline?
He's got to be up there. I mean, scary in that he resembles a sleep paralysis demon more than any other player in the NBA. Scary that he is literally.
I'm looking at the picture. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the picture. I mean, my God, look.
Like that's like that is a professional basketball player right there, and he looks like how a child looks next to me, like a toddler looks next to me. Hey, Wemby's nippies high. Like that's how tall you are. And I mean, he's also like darn near close to impossible to defend. I will say though, I still think the scariest player in the NBA is Ant. Like, because Anthony Edwards, I think if I had to pick one player in the NBA who could make me cry, it's probably Anthony Edwards. So just the trash talking and just the level of play. Anthony Edwards, I think, is the scariest player in the NBA, but that man right there, like those limbs, that height, like that's also pretty terrifying.
I think it also depends on how we define scary, because like if we're talking about scary, the explosiveness and the size and the strength of somebody like Giannis stands out to me. But the reason I would say, I'll go for he's the scariest is because how do you defend him, especially if they can find a way to pack any muscle on him. And you see in that picture, they're starting to do some of that. But at growing 2 inches, it makes him 7'5". I think one of the big concerns we all have for Wemby is that what's that going to mean for injury? What's that going to mean for body structure? If he can have any width put on to that size, man, there's just a part of this. How do you defend him? Because he will force you to step out. Like, he will force you to get out of your comfort zone. And with the amount of size that he has, you're never going to block him. You're never going to be able to actually step and stop him. So I feel like there is an element of understanding the other portion of this. He's 21, right? Like, he is young. There are college basketball players that are older than Victor Wembanyama right now. So he's got plenty of time to keep growing into that body. I think he is on track to become the scariest player in the NBA. And right now, matchup-wise, might be absolutely right in that list. Let's go to another team in Texas and take a look at the Rockets. We were just talking to Tom Haberstroh about trade scenarios that could lead to Giannis getting to the Rockets. Can Durant carry this team to the NBA Finals? What say you, Caroline Fenton?
I can't go that far for a couple of reasons. I mean, the West is stacked. Like, I don't think the addition of Kevin Durant all of a sudden makes the Rockets better than OKC, or it doesn't. I don't think that he makes this team all of a sudden better than Denver. I am also, so it's the fact that it's a very stacked and deep West. It's also the fact that I don't know how confident I feel in this KD Houston fit. Like, if it's successful, that won't surprise me, but I am a little bit skeptical. On paper, KD fits what Houston needed. Houston needed more offense. Houston needed better shooting. And who to better plug in when you need more offense and better shooting than Kevin Durant? But also, I mean, Kevin Durant was scoring just shy of 30 points a game last year in Phoenix, and Phoenix still missed the postseason. Kevin Durant doesn't seem to be happy really anywhere he goes. So if the Rockets don't see immediate success, and look, they've got a young core around Kevin Durant, if they don't see success, if that doesn't equal wins, at least early in the season, when is the point where Kevin Durant gets upset? When is the point when Kevin Durant starts to, boo-hoo, whine, and cry? We've seen it in the past. Who's to say we won't see it again? I would like to see everything this young core and KD fit in Houston. Obviously, with Fred VanVleet out for the season, that hurts your team. I want to see it all work. I want to see all these pieces come together. But pardon me if I'm a little bit skeptical in Kevin Durant and these pieces fitting together enough to make a run in the postseason, but I just can't put my money on them finding themselves in the finals.
Yeah, I don't want to see this go. Like, look, I'm with you that there is part of this that says, okay, great. But how many times do we have this conversation with KD? Every time KD goes anywhere, it's how many rings can KD win with this team? And the answer has been none the last couple of stops, right? And so at some point, I look at all of this Kevin Durant conversation and say, what is it going to take for the entire NBA world to step back and give Oklahoma City the props that they deserve? Because if we're saying, can they go to the NBA Finals, what we're really asking is, are the Rockets now better than OKC because they acquired Kevin Durant? And the answer to me to that is quite simply no. Like, what we just see in the NBA Finals, just a couple of months ago in the NBA Finals, we got a lesson from everybody about how you win, how you build a championship team right now in the current NBA. And it's not just star-based. It's depth-based. It's having a bunch of guys that can come in and just grind you down night after night after night. It's having a bunch of youth that can come in and play valuable minutes and get points absolutely everywhere. So, yes, is KD one of the best players in the world? Yeah, I think so. And is KD one of the best players of his generation? Yes, I think so. Are the Rockets going to be very good? Yes, I think so. But we also need to just acknowledge that nothing has happened this summer that has made Oklahoma City worse. The best team in the West is the best team in the NBA, and the best team in the NBA is OKC. So I don't see the Rockets going to the finals because, frankly, all KD does is make them one of the really good teams in the West. I don't think it necessarily makes them better than Denver. I don't think it makes them better than OKC. I'm not sure what it means for the rest of the West.
Are they better than Minnesota today? Do we feel confident in Houston being better than Minnesota?
No. I mean,
I don't know if I can go there.
That's the toughest part about KD is not the one thing that solves every problem. And also, I remind everybody that making your team better doesn't make other teams worse. And that's part of what we have to remember in the West. What about Cooper Flagg? We'll get one more Texas two-step in here. Cooper Flagg coming in for the Dallas Mavericks. Do you believe that he will do the unthinkable and be an all-star in his rookie season?
Ooh. Do I think he can? Yes, Cooper Flag has that ability. It's just really hard to be an all-star when you're a rookie. It doesn't happen very frequently. In fact, it hasn't happened since Blake Griffin was a rookie. And we've had some pretty good rookies since Blake Griffin was a rookie. So just based off of, history, what recent history has told us, I'm going to lean no that Cooper Flag will not be an all-star this year.
I think you're right, but I also want to take the other side of this because I want to have nice things, damn it. Cooper Flag.
We deserve
if you
nice
start
things.
looking at, I think it's crazy that we haven't had a rookie in All-Star since 2010. And then you think about exactly who Cooper Flag is and exactly what makes Cooper Flag Cooper Flag. Now, it is interesting to me, and I wonder if one of the things that could help him in the league from day one is that he's a little bit more balanced when it comes to his skill set than some of the guys that come in. Like, we fall in love with points. You and I talk about offense all the time, no matter what the sport is. But if you look at the comps, and I love how many people out of college kept saying he's very similar to Scottie Pippen. And I think that in some ways is because he's got a huge wingspan. We understand that. He's really aggressive around the rim. We understand that. He can do a lot of different things. So I think because he could, if he has the rookie season we think he could have, he can put himself in defensive mindsets. He can put himself in offensive mindsets. Like, we will be giving him a lot of credit for his game in several different ways. And because of that, I just wonder if it's a little bit of like a Voltron effect. Like, maybe his offense isn't what would usually get you the All-Star. Maybe his defense isn't what would usually get you the All-Star, but you put those together and you have an All-Star performance. I'm going to believe it happens. Plus, I also believe that at some level, voting is influenced by expectation, and there are just a lot of people that have high expectations for the Mavs and Cooper Flag. All right, that's our Texas two-step. I don't know if we did a great waltz, but it feels like, like we did the shuffle. I'm not much of a
I can't
dancer.
dance.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not for me. That's why I do this. Do not dance.
Yeah. Well, Baker Mayfield gets to dance in the end zone a lot. The question is, will he be dancing all offseason with an MVP trophy? We'll dance with the star next. Take Baker Mayfield.
Told you guys that I try and not get too high, not get too low, which is something that I was not doing early on in my career. But early on in my career, it's looked as cocky and mature. Now it's moxie. He's a dog. Same shit, different day. As long as you play well, they change the narrative. But you just got to be yourself, and I've always been like that.
That's Baker Mayfield talking about the moxie and confidence. And frankly, let's take a look at it right there. You see the MVP odds that are out there. Josh Allen has a big lead for his second MVP, but Baker's currently plus 800 to win the MVP, trailing only Allen and Mahomes. So a big moment for him to be plus 800. Caroline, I think it's interesting when you listen to Baker talk, and you and I have both had the opportunity to talk to him in the past. And I think one of the refreshing things about Baker is that he's wildly honest, and he says what is true to him, but he does it in a way that doesn't always create rage bait headlines. And what he just said there, I think is important to recognize. Early in his career, the things that he was completely mocked for are the things now that we absolutely love about Baker. And I just wonder all the time about, for everybody that says, well, the Browns should have kept him. I don't know if that would have made a difference. Like, I think at some point, you just got to go through some things. You got to live through some things. You got to learn through some things to be the version of yourself that you become. And I just don't know, for the presumption that we always make the transitive property, as you mentioned a lot in football. When we try and do that in football, I think the danger of it is we presume that Baker would have gone through the same growth as a human being by going through all the things he went through by staying in Cleveland. I don't know that that's the case. I think you have to be ready for particular doors to open. And one of the beautiful things about this version of Baker is that he's obviously ready for the moment he has right now, and it's bringing out the best in him in a way that I don't know that it could have happened without going through everything he went through.
It's also not fair to say that Baker was doing the exact same things in Cleveland that he's doing now. I mean, sure, we still have that moxie, that confidence, that swagger, that IDGAF attitude. That hasn't gone away, but Baker was immature in Cleveland. Baker would, make the inappropriate gestures and, have immature conversations behind the scenes. Like, Baker was kind of a what in Cleveland. And I think sometimes in life, in football, in relationships, in professional careers, like whatever it is in life, sometimes you need to be brought back down to earth to mature. And I think that's exactly what happened to Baker. That in Cleveland, at Oklahoma, he was the guy. Won a Heisman Trophy, was the #1 overall pick. He's the big man on campus. And then he comes into Cleveland. He's like, I'm the savior of this franchise. I'm that dude. I'm that guy. And when you're 22, 23 years old and a millionaire and viewed as the savior in a city, that gets to an ego. Like, that gets to a person, especially someone like Baker that already has naturally a very large ego. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I think you need to have an ego in order to be successful in this league. But I think the comeback down to earth was necessary. Being a backup, getting cut in Carolina, being the backup in LA, kind of having, a rehabilitation stop with Sean McVay. All of those things were necessary steps along the way to not just get his swagger back, but to find a level of maturity and to maintain that swagger. In football, you never want to take Superman's cape away from him. And that's what Baker's Superman cape is. It's that swagger. That's the reason he now wears the clutch crown in the NFL, because he has that feeling of invincibility that I don't care if we're down 3 and there's 45 seconds left on the clock. We're going to score and we're going to win this football game. That's a valuable mentality that you don't want to take away from Baker. And while it hasn't gone away, it is draped with this, this sense of maturity, this sense of I am a leader in the locker room, this sense of I set the tone. And that is not an overwhelming feeling. That's probably an empowering feeling for him now. And I think Baker would be the first one to tell you that he had to go through that career trajectory to find himself now in the position where he is now.
You see the numbers there. Game-winning drives in week 1, 2, 3, and 5. Mr. Clutch. This weekend, the 4-1 Bucks take on the 4-1 49ers. If the Bucks win this game behind a big game for Baker, is he going to fly up the MVP boards? Because it's pretty easy to see, like, this is that opportunity. Even though the 49ers are banged up, blah, 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 blah. It's still a 4-1 versus a 4-1 for a player in Baker that I feel like right now is getting a lot of attention, and everybody's got a lot of positive vibes around him. It feels like a big win here could help him just absolutely skyrocket up the MVP odds.
He should. Will he, though, is the question, because Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, as we showed in that graphic at the top of the segment, they're at the top of the MVP odds. I don't think that's going to change because their names are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and those two feel like really good bets for MVP. I think the margin will probably get smaller. I think you'll start to see more and more money being put on Baker, because if you, whatever you define MVP as, like Baker is that. If MVP is to you, you take this player away and it's a completely different football team, that's Baker. If MVP is to you, the sexy stats and the passing yards, the touchdowns, like that's Baker. Like Baker fits the bill and has the resume for an MVP caliber season, at least so far. I just don't think, knowing the betting public and knowing the way that we as a football society view Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, that he's going to leapfrog those guys. But I think the margins will start to get smaller and smaller. If you told me, hey, Caroline, here's $100 to go bet on NFL MVP, you pick whoever you want, my money's going on Baker.
I still think if I had $100 to just throw down on it, and I might after the show, it might be Dak, because there's great numbers on Dak, and I will remind everybody that before ESPN was telling you that Dak could be MVP, we were. So just a little humble brag there. Not really even a humble brag, just a flat out brag.
Don't forget
I'm
where
just
you
saying,
get your best information.
We were first, but I do think that he will. There will be a reaction to this for Baker, and part of it is also because of who the Bucs have been without. Like, we sit here a lot and we talk about who the Kansas City Chiefs are without and why that impacts their offense. Well, as the Bucs continue over the course of the season to hopefully get healthy at the wide receiver position, I think there's going to be a lot of numbers coming for Baker, and Baker is just playing at such a wildly elite level right now. He's just seeing the field so stinking well. I think that leads to something. So let's say they get this big win. All right, let's say either way, the winner of this game, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. We just watched the Eagles lose. So will the winner of this game become the elite of the NFC? Can they actually be bigger threats to everybody than the Lions?
No, the Lions are still the class of the NFC. It's a fun conversation to have. The Lions, until they prove me differently or otherwise, the Lions are still the class of the NFC. Fitz, I think the Lions are the class of the NFL. I maybe would have said the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, but when you get absolutely splattered by Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, I can't say that anymore. So it's the Lions. The Lions are the class of the NFC. The Lions are the class of the NFL. But if the 49ers continue to win, like, sign me up for a 49ers Lions NFC Championship game. If the Bucs find a way to win this weekend, like, sign me up for Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Lions, Bucs, for the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. Like, these two teams that we're seeing face off, of course, the injuries for the 49ers are always going to be a dark cloud that hovers over this team, but sign me up for, a long and successful season for either of these two teams. I could absolutely 100% see either of these two teams in an eventual NFC Championship game.
Yeah, no, there is no doubt that the Lions are the class of the NFL to me right now. And I think everybody else has a yeah, but, as I love to say, in the NFC. Like, the 49ers have yeah, but they are decimated by injuries. They're winning through that, but is that sustainable? Would you bet your house on the ability to sustain through that? I'd be uncomfortable with it. So I really love what the 49ers are doing. And the agent of chaos buried deep within me would love to see this world where Mac Jones takes the 49ers to a Super Bowl and then we have a really weird quarterback conversation. It just feels like it would be glorious for content. But still, the yeah buts on that are too much for me to be comfortable with. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won these games at clutch time, and that's why we turn around and say, look at how clutch they are. Or, my God, you can't live within those margins every single week and depend on that to be the thing that gets you to the Super Bowl. So I'm uncomfortable with some of that. We were in love with the Packers until we weren't in love with the Packers. The Eagles in the last 10 days suddenly look broken. I think you look across the land, the Cowboys defense has to learn how to play better. You look across the landscape, I think there's only one team in the NFC that clearly can stand up and say, hey, guys, we're over here, and we don't have as many question marks. They have some injuries in the secondary, but they'll get through that. I think the Lions are that team. So Detroit is still the class of the NFC, maybe the class of the NFL, and everybody else is fighting for second. But I do think that the Buccaneers have a real shot at playing meaningful football all the way in towards February, and that, man, you got to bet against Baker, one possession, one drive in the playoffs. I don't know if I could do it. That's the hardest part is I don't know. Like, I think what Baker's doing is so magical. I wonder if single-handedly he can lead them somewhere.
Will he have to do it single-handedly?
Actually, you're right. It's not single-handedly. You're right. It's not.
I would feel like Dak would have to lead the Cowboys single-handedly because he's not getting any sort of help defensively.
That's fair.
If and when, let's just say if the Bucks make that run, it'll be headlined by Baker. But I don't think that he's going to have to do it by himself. Yes, you would want to see the defense be a little bit better, but looking at the weapons that he has around him, Bucky Irving's banged up, but you still have a solid run game. Mike Evans is banged up. Chris Godwin's coming back from injury, but you would expect at least both of those guys to be back and healthy. And then Emeka Egbuka, I mean, I said it earlier this week. He's my pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year right now.
100%.
Emeka Egbuka does not look or play like a rookie right now, and I'm saying that complimentary. Like Emeka Egbuka is playing like a veteran, so I think he has enough pieces around him that he doesn't have to do it himself. But there are moments, we've seen it, and I'm sure there are more to come, where it is Baker. You got to win it for us. Put the team on your back. He's shown the ability to do that. But to your point, can he do that for 10 games? Can he do that for a large part of a 17-game season? To that, I say, why not? He's done it to get them to 4-1 at this point. Why can't he do it throughout the rest of the season?
We'll keep breaking down all the NFL action. Coming up next, Pro Football Talks. Mike Florio going to join us. We'll figure out what the latest is on Gruden. The tush push, going to cover a lot with Mike. Don't go anywhere. Mike Florio's Big Shield is available right now. You can head over to Amazon and buy Big Shield, penned by Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. Great book, available on paperback and as an ebook. You can grab the ebook for only 99 cents. Great work by Mike. Mike joining us right now on Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, friend of the show at this point. Second time we've been able to have Mike on. Really appreciate your time this morning, brother. Let's get into it.
Wait, hang on a second. Is that the over-under is 1.5 appearances? Is that the over-under become friend of the show? I'm trying to understand how this works.
I think so.
By the way,
well,
look at this thing. I have learned that this is very good to kill spiders with. If nothing else.
Oh.
You can. All right. Messing up
what can't it do?
Mike,
what a versatile book you've written, Florio.
I'm not going to lie. I was in the car last night, and there was a spider crawling in my car above my head. And the whole time I'm driving on the highway, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. I never thought of having a book in the car. Now, there we go. Big Shield, boom. It's the Big Shield against spiders for me. And
Get a new car is the answer to that question.
I thought maybe I would just go burn it.
Get rid of it.
We'll see. That's kind of the only answer. But yeah, Mike, we're only a couple months old. So over-unders of 1.5 visits makes you friend of the show. There we go.
I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. Better to be a friend than an enemy of the show. I've learned that over the years.
100%. Everybody seems to be an enemy of the tush push last night, 4 straight plays. I'll ask you, do you think that there's going to be momentum this offseason for the league to ban the play?
Yes, absolutely. There's already momentum. And we've seen different arguments raised over the past year. It started as a safety issue. I think the league overplayed its hand, trying to make it into a bigger injury risk than it is, with the risk of a catastrophic neck injury. The Eagles did a nice job of pushing back against the arguments that had been made by Dr. Alan Sills when the owners got together in March. Come May, they brought in Jason Kelce. Sills wasn't there to rebut what Kelce said. It was just enough to save the play. But there's this other notion of it doesn't look like football. We saw that last night tweeted by Micah Parsons during the game. And the narrative now seems to be it's very difficult to officiate it, as evidenced by the repeated false starts that we see on replay in slow motion. We saw it again last night. And look, unless the whole false start thing is some sort of a false flag operation by the officials to intentionally miss the penalties, to build the momentum, to get rid of the play, and I doubt that they're competent enough to do that. This is just a play that for various reasons, it all comes together and it's pointing toward the play being gone. But here's the caveat. If the Eagles continue to struggle, if they don't go deep into the playoffs, if they don't get back to the Super Bowl, some of the momentum may go away, because I think at the core, this is all about the simple fact that the Eagles have something that no one else has. So when that something is no longer delivering wins, delivering potential championships, maybe some of the other teams will be less zealous, because they'll be like, do it all you want. It doesn't matter. It's not making a difference for you.
Let's stick on the Eagles, because it seems like A.J. Brown seems to, and his social media usage and things he says to the media always creep in to the headlines. And this is no different. That, go back to last season, A.J. Brown's reading a book on the sidelines, and then A.J. Brown tweets out
I got one for him if he wants to do it again. Sorry.
Always be promoting. Well done. He tweeted out the Bible verse a couple of weeks ago, and then last night he spoke with the media, and when asked about the meeting that he, Jalen Hurts, and Saquon Barkley had, he said, I'm not aware of it. I don't know about any meeting. A.J. Brown is very clearly unhappy, and it was fine to say, okay, hush up, A.J. Brown, we're 4-0. Now they're not. Now they're 4-2. They're losing football games. How do you see all of this panning out with A.J. Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles?
We were talking about A.J. Brown's lack of awareness, supposedly, of the meeting earlier on PFT Live, the weekday show that we do on Peacock. And one of the viewers sent me a quote in Italian. I can't remember the Italian quote, even though I'm 99.9% Italian, but it translates to, I saw nothing, I heard nothing, I wasn't there, and if I was there, I was asleep. So the whole thing is just bizarre. And I think that the A.J. Brown antics, which really have been the catalyst of the dysfunction we've seen over the past 2 weeks from the Eagles, I think it's more of a symptom than the ultimate disease. I think that the Eagles are suffering from a lack of true leadership, a lack of someone who can kind of get this stuff under control. They do a good job of keeping the dirty laundry, for the most part, from really being aired out. Like, we get whiffs of it and they put the fire out, but they never solve the fire internally. And it's been there for a couple of years, and they won a Super Bowl despite whatever dysfunction there may be. But there are clearly issues this year. At times it feels like their offensive play calling is the product of a random generator. Like, I don't sense an identity. I don't sense a rhythm. I don't sense a purpose. I don't sense a broader strategy. And it's odd, because Nick Sirianni is an offensive guy. That's how he got the job. And they've had a different offensive coordinator every year. And the guy's either good enough to get hired to be a head coach somewhere else, or he's bad enough to get fired after 1 year. And Sirianni's the common link. And it only adds to the perception that Sirianni's kind of a bystander to this supremely talented team that now the rest of the league is catching up with, and they're not making a difference when it comes to coaching. And it's becoming an issue with the players. And they've got a couple of extra days before their next game. They go to Minnesota, not the easiest place to play. And they think that they can just kind of, it's like if you're in a dark room and you're searching for the switch, they feel like they're eventually going to find the switch without changing anything. And I feel like they need to make the kind of massive changes that you need an offseason to make. In season, it's like changing a tire on a moving car. And I think they're just struggling to make that happen.
All right, Mike, you joined us in late August with some great reporting. You've done a great job on the Gruden lawsuit from the outset, right? So we learned last week the Nevada State Court voted unanimously 7-0 to again reject the NFL. What's next for Gruden?
And that was a procedural step by the full Nevada Supreme Court to take up the NFL's request for a rehearing. There was a similar maneuver made by the NFL recently as to a similar ruling in the Brian Flores litigation, which has been pending for 3.5 years and is still stuck on the question of where are we going to figure this thing out? Which forum, open court or arbitration? They're still grinding through that. Next for the NFL in the Gruden case is decide whether or not to take it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I don't imagine the NFL won't. The NFL had no comment when I asked them about the latest Gruden development last week, but they'll have a period of time where they can file a petition for appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court takes on a very small percentage of the total petitions presented to it every year. There are complicated motivations that go into the eventual vote. But here's the reality, and this isn't a political statement, it's a political observation. And I know this from when I practiced law, and this is true. And I always hear from people who disagree with me who never practiced law. I tell you this is the truth. Judges who are conservative by nature, and that's how they typically get in position to be appointed to federal judgeships by Republican administrations, because the president has the power to appoint every vacancy in the federal courts at every level. Typically, they are pro-business. And the current makeup of the Supreme Court would favor the NFL if this ever lands on the U.S. Supreme Court's docket as an active case. So that's where it gets very interesting, and who knows how it all plays out. But my concern is if the NFL would win the right to arbitrate this case, it becomes the blueprint for every major company out there to take the boilerplate arbitration agreements it currently uses for its employees and change the arbitrator from some outside company to the CEO or his designee, because that's really the heart of this. And I'm glad it's finally come into focus after all these years. Is it proper, is it just for the commissioner to be the person who rules and handles and presides over if he chooses, or he has a hand-picked person to whom he delegates that authority to resolve these claims against the NFL? And in this case, it's against the NFL and against the commissioner directly. That's a system that, number one, the commissioner shouldn't want to be in charge of if he truly is interested in justice being done. And I think the NFL is primarily interested in doing business the way they want to do business. But so far, between the Gruden case and the Flores case, this approach that the NFL has been using for years is on very thin ice. But the Supreme Court could save it all if it chooses to take up the case. And if the 6-3 somewhat supermajority issues a pro-business ruling, and then that opens the floodgates for every company in the United States to use the NFL's what I call secret rigged kangaroo court of arbitration, presided over by the boss of the company that's being sued by a former employee.
What's it going to take for Gruden to coach again?
I'm not sure. I mean, the emails that he sent back in 2011, that time frame when he was working for ESPN, those came to light. And this is one where you have to compartmentalize, because I'm not excusing Gruden's emails when I say somebody did something they shouldn't have done when they took a few emails from a supposedly confidential 650,000 document stack and deliberately leaked them first to the Wall Street Journal, then to the New York Times, with a calculated effort to take Jon Gruden out during the 2021 season, undermining the entire integrity of that season by knocking out a head coach during the season. It could have been handled before the season, could have been handled after the season. It was handled during the season. So two things can be true. Gruden could have deserved serious scrutiny, if not resignation, termination, and somebody could have mishandled these documents. So I think that through it all, as long as you're this agitator for the NFL and you're in open litigation against the NFL, it's going to take an owner who really wants Jon Gruden to overcome that desire to not become persona non grata among your business partners, because this is a guy who's trying to raid the piggy bank. And he's making strong accusations against the NFL. And we saw what happened to the Browns when they gave Deshaun Watson the big contract. They got the cold shoulder. When you do things that step out of line from what the league expects, you take on some risk. And is Gruden good enough to justify the risk? Look at his record with the Raiders. Look at his record in the final years of his time with Tampa Bay. There's a question of whether or not he's good enough of a coach to justify the blowback that you may take if you hire him.
So we go from Jon Gruden, one former NFL head coach, to another NFL head coach, and the, let's say, disaster that's happening in Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick. We heard some reporting that he's open to a buyout, and then there were graphics sent out by the athletic director and Bill Belichick himself saying they're both equally committed to the football program and to each other. What do you make of everything that's happened at UNC and what this does to Bill Belichick's NFL legacy?
I don't think it undermines his legacy with the Patriots. I think it makes it virtually impossible for any other team to ever even consider hiring him, because you've got to sell that hire to your fan base. And it's one thing to sell the hire when he's just left the Patriots. It's another thing to sell the hire when the past year has been one weird story, one strange development after another. I don't know that any fan base is going to roll out the red carpet and renew season tickets and get excited about the prospect of Bill Belichick being the head coach. But as it relates to North Carolina, there were so many reports this week, and it was almost an avalanche that was pointing toward this thing ending before the team's next game next Friday night against Cal in Berkeley. I thought there was a chance at some point this week that they were going to reach a deal and they were just going to go their separate ways. And it could be that the companion statements we saw on Wednesday night, which is hardly the kind of response that you need when you've got this kind of negativity that's being reported by multiple outlets, it could just be that both sides are establishing their final position before they negotiate how this is going to end, how much money is going to change hands to end this relationship at a time when there are objective indicators that both sides would be best served by moving on. But the fundamental problem is this. At the college level, you need players. And I think the most telling report of the week came from Bruce Feldman, who spoke to a coach from one of the Group 5 conferences, the Sun Belt, and that cut of teams. He said that whenever we find ourselves competing with the same Power 4 school for similar players, and that team keeps popping up again in our competition for recruits, that team's going to stink. And that team this year was North Carolina, trying to get players that lower level schools were trying to get. Their players just aren't good enough. It doesn't matter how good of a coach you are if your players aren't good enough. And I think that's the problem in North Carolina.
Mike, as always, we appreciate your time. Guys, the ebook is out there for 99 cents. The Big Shield is also out there. You can get it at $14.99 on Amazon. Got mine. Next time I'll hold it up for you. All right, that's what I'll hold it up for you.
I want to see the dried, crusted corpses of the spiders on the back. Use the back, the front. My nephew designed the front. This is an awesome cover.
It's a lovely front.
A Las Vegas sign, but the back, just do the back because it's just a bunch of words back there that nobody ever reads. Just use that to kill the spider.
As a kid from Vegas that has the Vegas Welcome to Vegas sign tattooed as part of my arm, I would never denigrate the actual sign. Mike, we appreciate your time, brother. Thanks for hanging out.
Great talking to you.
Pro Football Talk as always. Great stuff from Mike Florio. In the meantime, let's get to some of the action coming this weekend. Broncos versus Jets. Trap game or just an insult? We'll talk about it next. I think in the league, quite honestly, it's a little disrespectful to consider anybody a trap team. That's Broncos quarterback Bo Nix talking about the matchup coming up this weekend between the Broncos and the Jets, and especially after what we saw last night, Yahoo Sports Daily, Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. I just feel like the concept of trap games has to be just on everybody. You watched a team that was a 7.5-point favorite in Philadelphia in most sports books just go out there and get their butts whooped by the New York Giants, who are a rival. That has to be of a bit of a wake-up call, because I realize that things have gone off the rails for the Jets, but the thing, everything isn't so sunshine and roses for the Broncos that they can overlook this opponent, right?
Of course not. And after last night, after what we saw the New York Giants and Jackson Dart in his third start in the NFL due to the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, I think that's just yet another example and even more proof to all of us that it's any given Sunday in the National Football League, then anything can happen in the National Football League. Now, it's fair to say, hey, Bo Nix even bringing up the fact that this could be a trap game might be, a little disrespectful to the Jets. I think we also need to consider it was probably asked about this being a trap game, because I think that's trap games are something that we, Fitz, you and I, and we in the media, we talk about those things. When you're inside of a locker room, I don't think you can have those conversations. I think you have to approach every single opponent. I call it the Nick Saban approach. And he would get up at the media in his press conferences and talk about St. Mary's School of the Blind having a great defense and being a really tough opponent. Like, inside of a locker room, you have to have that mentality. But yeah, I think last night was a perfect example that you can get got at any given Sunday or Thursday or Monday or in London or in Dublin or wherever the heck they play games in the NFL. You can get got anytime.
Yeah, and there's an element too. I think focus comes from what's on the line. Like, the Broncos are 3-2 and they're tied for first place. The Chargers do not look like the team that they have looked like over the course of the last couple of weeks. So, all of a sudden, if you're the Broncos, you understand that you've got a real opportunity. Think about the way we perceive 3-3 playing 500 football versus 4-2. It just feels different for everybody involved in it. When you're 4-2, you're thinking, yeah, man, like things look really good. When you're 3-3, you're scratching and clawing. I think all of this speaks to just the intensity that I expect to come out from Denver in this matchup. And then as it stands right now, they're both a game up on the Chiefs. So obviously, when you take a look at what we've got in the AFC versus the AFC West versus AFC East, the Chargers are taking on the Dolphins. So I think we're seeing the Broncos. You tell me if I'm wrong, but to me, we're seeing the Broncos some kind of way right now. Like, it looks like things have clicked for Bo. It looks like, the defense is starting to live up to the hype that we have for the defense. It feels like everything's just coming together for Denver at the same time that it feels like everything is collapsing for the Chargers. Like, the Chargers, I don't trust the Chargers offensive line. They're just too banged up. I don't trust the Chargers to be able to run the football. They're too banged up. So in 2 weeks, the perception of the Broncos and Chargers is absolutely flip-flopped.
We do this. We're all guilty of this. Once we have 2 or 3 games or weeks of a sample size, we're like, cool, we have everything figured out. These teams are good. These teams are bad. These teams are contenders. These teams are pretenders. These teams are surprises of the season, and these teams are what we expected. But it's important to remember that the season is not 2 or 3 weeks. This is a 17-game season. So everything that we thought we knew about the Chargers that had a 3-game lead in the division, and the Broncos week 1 against the crummy, crappy Titans just kind of barely squeaked past to win. Like, we thought, okay, the Chargers are the class of the division. The Chiefs aren't the Chiefs, and the Broncos aren't the team that we thought they were going to be. We thought that we all had that figured out. And then you get into week 4 and 5 and 6 and the point in the season where we are, and we're like, wait, pump the brakes. Maybe, just maybe, what we thought we knew was just kind of an early season fallacy. I thought after the first couple of weeks where the Broncos didn't look dominant, that Bo Nix looked too good in his rookie year, that Sean Payton is too good of a coach. There's too much talent on the defensive side of the ball for the Broncos to just be, a 9-8, 8-9 middling kind of football team, which is maybe what they looked like in the first couple of weeks. We're starting to see these pieces come together. We're starting in real time seeing things continue to click for Bo Nix. Let's not forget that Sean Payton executes a very, very complicated offense. Maybe what Bo Nix was executing last year was a little bit of a diluted version of what Sean Payton wants to do. Week over week, he's getting more getting more from this offense, asked to do more in this offense. That doesn't happen overnight. That kind of growth and that kind of level of execution of this offense is not a linear progression. Maybe we're starting to see some things click for Bo Nix and the Broncos start to look like that team that we talked about in the offseason.
That's why the eye test matters so much as the record, because I got to remind everybody, like we've been spending so much today talking about the Eagles, right? And the Eagles were 4-0 and everything was fine. And now they're 4-2 and everything's falling apart. I will remind you that if you just go 3-2 out of every 5 games, if you go 3-2, then you'll wake up 9-6 with 2 games to go in the regular season, which means you are squarely in the position of controlling your own destiny. All you got to do is win 3 out of every 5 games. And we treat every game like it's just this massive, huge statement of what's going to happen for the rest of the season. The fact is, if you barely play 500 football over the course of each five-week segment, you're going to be in the playoff conversation. So, at some point to all of this, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos, they share one thing. They're all still wildly in this playoff situation. So the Chiefs Broncos, a game up on the Chargers. LA picked up their big win in the opener. If you had to choose right now, which team do you think has the better chance of unseating the Chiefs' AFC West dominance?
If you would have asked me this a couple weeks ago, it would have been the Chargers. But then they continue to get injured. Marion Hampton's on IR. Najee Harris out for the season. Joe Alt is banged up. But this is not the same Chargers team that it was just a couple of weeks ago. Surely not in training camp. They cannot run the football. And I cannot trust you to win football games in the NFL if you can't run the ball, as much as I trust Justin Herbert and love watching Justin Herbert. Right now, I think it's the Chiefs division. No, the Chiefs haven't looked incredibly dominant. No, the Chiefs don't look like their Super Bowl selves. I just have to continue to hold out hope for this Chiefs team. If it's anyone, it's the Broncos. If it's not the Chiefs, it's the Broncos the way that they've been playing the past couple of weeks, Fitzy. What would you say? Is it anyone but the Broncos?
Here's the hardest thing. I love to go. No, it's the Broncos. But I love to go with my tag teams. I like my head coach and my quarterback to create this great 80s wrestling tag team. They both got to be great. The one curious thing that I think is really interesting about the AFC West is when I look for advantages early this season, what I always ask myself is which coach-quarterback combo do I trust the most? Well, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I trust probably the most of any in the league. That's fine. Sean Payton and Bo Nix at this point, I trust. I'm sorry. Like the first couple of weeks, we were like, oh, Bo is regressing. Maybe Bo is taking a step back. But at this point, I trust Sean Payton and I trust Bo Nix. I trust both of them. I also trust Harbaugh and Herbert. At some point, you got to look across the entire landscape and say, who do you not trust out of these 3 teams? So now it becomes about everything else. And I don't know. When I look at everything else, the injuries of the Chargers is the everything else that concerns me. The defense, or I should say the inability of the Chiefs to actually put together a capable offense scares me a little bit. I just feel like there's the most question marks weirdly about the Chargers because of health. It's the one team that I dock a little bit, but also all 3 of these coach-quarterback combos are worthy of the playoffs. All 3 of these teams are worthy of the playoffs. And as much as we're talking about how much the AFC sucks, I don't know if I'm really buying that argument because at the end of the day, if you got to bet your house against Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, you going to? I'm not. Are you going to bet against Bo Nix and Sean Payton? I'm not. You going to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes? I'm sure as hell not going to. So 3 out of 4 teams in the AFC West look like they could be Super Bowl contenders based on those categories together, right? So I just can't rule any of them out of this conversation.
And I think the coach-quarterback conversation is a fascinating one because I think those are the 3 top coach-quarterback combinations in the NFL. And they're all in the AFC West. Like, who would you put else in that conversation? Harbaugh and Lamar probably go in that conversation. That doesn't look like that's going to come to fruition this season. The Ravens look dreadful, but I still trust those 2. Like, I don't trust Zach Taylor with Joe Burrow.
Do you trust
Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, but like
that's a big question. Like I trust Josh Allen and Sean McDermott.
I don't know. I don't trust Sean McDermott like I trust Andy Reid and Sean Payton or Jim or John Harbaugh. Like I don't view him in that same caliber. I don't view him in that same tier. So the combination together, name me a better one. Name me a division with one combination better than any of those 3.
And that's why when you look at the other side of the two matchups we just talked about, the Jets and Miami, when you look at those two
Sean
teams
McVay
in this
and
matchup,
Matthew Stafford. That's the
Sean
one.
McVay, Matthew Stafford. Yeah, that 100%. But when you look at the other side of this matchup, the Jets, we don't know about their coach, and we know that they don't have a quarterback. Miami, we thought they had that. We thought they had that elite combo, and it no longer looks like that. So it right now in today's AFC, I think unless you have a top-notch coach and a absolute epic quarterback, I don't know that I trust you at all. And when you look at that, that's the difference. And it's so hard to just go out and identify that. Like the Giants, we feel differently about today because they have a coach quarterback combo that suddenly we're giving some hope. So it's wild to me when you look at the Broncos, when you look at the Chargers, when you look at the Chiefs. We're going to spend the rest of the season trying to figure out who's going to win, who's not going to win, and who's not going to win this division, what it means. I just think all three of them are not only capable of winning the division. I think all three of them are capable of representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
I'm with you. And looking at this Broncos-Jets game, I think this is a game that the Broncos will win. This is a game that the Broncos should win, at least on paper. I know the NFL is weird, but still, like if I'm putting money on the Broncos. Is 0-6 any different than 0-5 for the Jets?
No.
I don't think so either. Like, yeah, I mean, you don't obviously 1-5 is better than 0-6, but what is going to be so bad, like bad enough for the Jets for things to make a difference?
Yeah, I think the Jets are just in a lost
bad.
season. And it's time to acknowledge, as we did yesterday on the show, there are a lot of teams in the NFL that are facing a lost season, and that is just unfortunate for where the Jets are. And we'll be reminded of that. But then again, if you'd asked me 24 hours ago, I'd have told you that the Eagles were going to thump the Giants. So just shows you how little we actually know about this football season. What we do know is it's time to figure out how watchable some of the biggest games of the weekend are. The best games of the weekend coming up in the most interesting way you've ever seen. I promise you that. Yahoo Sports Daily. Oh, the glorious face you see right there is Bart Scott sitting between Caroline Fenton and Jason Fitz on Yahoo Sports Daily. And it's there because it's time for a new segment alert. It's called Can't Wait. All right, this is where we're going to spin through some of the games this weekend and decide whether or not we're excited for them. Now, if I say can't wait, it's a shout out to Bart Scott because we all know that. So when you hear can't wait, you will hear this. Maybe. Can't wait. There we go. We got can't
Iconic.
wait. All right. Now, if we don't like it and we figure out that we're not necessarily a big fan of it, then you might hear this instead. All right, because it's a part or a fart. That's what we're doing on this show. It's a part or a fart. By the way, there are some games. There's some games we love so much we might even get two can't waits out of it. I don't want to put anybody in a box, right? Like, so we'll let the guys behind the scenes decide if it's worth 1, 2, 3, however many can't waits they want to give us, or however many farts. It's part or fart. That's really what we're doing here. I cannot wait to tell Bart Scott this is how we
the
use
rare
this prime moment.
2 fart game.
Well, it's going to happen, especially especially on some weeks. All right, so let's start with the Red River rivalry, which, by the way, I worked on all morning to say properly. The Red River rivalry. So, are you giving that a part or a fart?
I think that this is one of the best rivalries in college sports. The Cotton Bowl, the divide at the 50-yard line, the Texas State Fair, the corn dogs of it all, the pageantry. This is a fart. This edition of Red River, thank you, is a big fat fart. And I thought that this game could potentially decide like who's going to the SEC championship game. I thought that this could have been like a college football playoff qualifier kind of game at the beginning of the season. John Mateer, by all reports that he's going to try and play, but John Mateer is just a couple of weeks removed from hand surgery. You can tape up an ankle, you can work through a quad injury. Your hand's pretty important, they tell me, when you're a quarterback. So even if you do get John Mateer playing, you're not going to get 100% John Mateer, I don't believe. And also, Oklahoma doesn't have a great run game to help John Mateer or whoever would come in. I believe their backup's name is Michael Hawkins. Whoever would help Michael Hawkins if he's going to play. Texas kind of stinks. Arch kind of stinks. The offensive line can't block. The receivers aren't great. The defense is not nearly as good as advertised. Like, if this is a John Mateer-less OU team, or even a less than 100% John Mateer OU team against this Texas team that's kind of stinky, this is a big fat fart.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm an agent of chaos. And because I'm an agent of chaos, everything you just said is exactly right. And that's why this game, my friend, is a part. Can't wait. It's a part because I can't wait for the reactions afterwards. Like, if Texas loses this game, particularly without John Mateer in, if Texas loses this game, Texas fans are going to feel more sick than if they ate 18 corn dogs before kickoff. Like, this thing is going to absolutely blow the minds of Texas fans out of the water if they get into this game and they find a way to lose. And if Oklahoma loses, oh my God, you just lost to this, as you just said, stinky team? No, if Oklahoma loses, everybody's going to lose their minds. And then we're right back to Brent Venables can't win the big one for Oklahoma. All of this conversation going to happen. The amount of just pure chaos comes out. Like, you know what? This isn't just can't wait. This is double part. Give me 2 parts. Can't wait. Can't wait. Oh, man, I'm all in.
Double parts?
Look, the game's going to be trash, but the reaction from it's going to be absolute pure joy. That's what I'm looking for. Ugly football that has, like, Surrender Cobra, the over-under on Surrender Cobra shots in this, which, is when the guys do like the over-under that 10. We're going to get 10 Surrender Cobras in this game. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. All right, let's try this one then. Indiana, Oregon. So watchability, Indiana, Oregon. Are you a part or a fart on this one? Can't wait.
This is a Bart.
Can't wait.
Ignore the fact that Indiana is not a college football blue blood, okay? Just take the logos, take the colors away, take the Kurt Signetti of it all away, and just focus on the fact that this is a showdown of 2 of the top 10 offenses in college football. Don't look now, but Indiana is top 5 in total offense in college football, not in the Big Ten, not in college football. I mean, Indiana is slinging the rock. And then on the other side, you've got Dante Moore, who is writing his own Heisman campaign, and an Oregon Ducks team that looks like it just might be one of the best in college football. A very strong argument for Oregon to be the number 1 team. And this is a test for me. This is why I think this is a huge Bart. This is a test for Indiana. Since they've came onto the field last season, since they've really become a relevant team in all of our eyes, I think that this is a better Indiana team than we saw last year make it to the college football playoff. But we still have yet to see Indiana go on the road against a legitimate team, like a really good team, and look how they look against No disrespect to Illinois, but the Illinois of the world, or the Purdue's of the Big Ten. They went on the road at Ohio State, laid an egg. They went on the road at Notre Dame in the college football playoff, laid an egg. This is now Kurt Cignetti and this Indiana team's opportunity to prove to all of us we are better than we were last year. That we are now that team that can go on the road in tough environments, and even if it's not in the form of a win, be competitive in those losses. They haven't been competitive in road losses against legitimate contending teams.
There are layers to this answer, my friend, because you are right. I will give you this. The game, when it kicks off, this game will be a Bart. Okay? I'll give you that.
But
maybe.
Can't wait.
But, yeah.
Yes.
By halftime of this game, this game will have gone all the way from Bart straight to fart. And look, you mentioned the offense. I never get tired of that.
And that fart sound effect that's a choice. That's squeaky.
It's quality.
That's
look,
a squeaky
Indiana
one.
Indiana beat Old Dominion, the school, not the band. They beat Kennesaw State. They beat Indiana State. They beat, I think, the most overrated Illinois team I can remember. And then they went to Iowa.
Score?
To your point,
Fitz, what was the score?
The score was 63-10. But by the way, Illinois shouldn't have even been
63-10.
And then what they do
You
the
get
following
credit
week
for
at
beating up
Iowa.
on teams
At
like
Iowa.
that.
At Iowa, they won 20-15 at Iowa. Like, if you struggled against Iowa, you're going to get that ass kicked against Oregon. Like, this is one of those games. The first three drives are going to be like, this is electric. Points everywhere. And then by the third quarter, when Oregon's up by 40, we're going to be sitting here saying, oh, my God. Like, this is one of those, A, hammer the over games. But B, I'm all on Oregon winning this game. And I'm on this Oregon winning this game by multiple touchdowns. This game will start as a Bart, end as a fart. And that's just because I don't think that Indiana long-term – you're right. Indiana's a fun story when they're not playing actual football teams. So come at me, Indiana football fans. I don't care. What about Bama, Mizzou? We got a little SEC action here. Bama, Mizzou, is that a Bart or a fart?
2 whole Barts.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
There we go. 2 Barts. 2 Barts for this one. Oh, this one is juicy, Fitz. Oh, this one has all of the makings of just a very quality SEC matchup. And I think that we see Alabama get exposed this weekend. Alabama cannot stop the run. They gave up over 200 rushing yards to Georgia. Yes, they won. They found a way to win. But they will let teams run all over them. They've struggled with mobile quarterbacks as well. They struggled with Tommy Castellanos in week 1 and that loss to Florida State. Bo Prabula can run the football. And oh yeah, by the way, don't look now because nobody's been paying attention to Missouri football. I don't really blame you. They have the best running back in the nation in Ahmad Hardy. I mean, he's running for 7 yards a crack. He's got 9 rushing touchdowns on the season. That man right now, I think, is a Heisman Trophy dark horse at this point. He just hasn't done it against big caliber programs. Yes, they played Kansas and they beat Kansas, and that's fine and great and dandy. Alabama's a different story, but I think that between Bo Prabula and between Ahmad Hardy, they are going to be able to run it down Alabama's throats. Also, look at the past couple of weeks for these two teams. Missouri's coming off of UMass and then a bye. Alabama is coming off of Georgia and a very emotional game against Vanderbilt. I feel like we know a lot about Alabama because we've seen them play high-quality opponents. I don't think we know a lot about Missouri other than they can run the football. Alabama's not going to be able to stop it, Fitz. And I love this. I think this will be Missouri's coming out party. And this might be where we start to feel Kalen DeBoer's seat just get a little bit more spicy.
Okay, you described this matchup as juicy, which is correct, but it's not a juicy Bart. It's a fart.
It's not a juicy fart.
It is not.
It is a big fat juicy Bart.
No, it's definitely a juicy fart. Like everything you just said, by the way, was brilliantly broken down, especially the ability to run the football. That's why I just think this is going to be a slog, just ugly run, whole time of possession all day long. Alabama gets the ball. Alabama moves down the field quickly. Then Missouri gets it back. It's like run. It just feels like a boring football game to me. I get it. I get it. Everybody says it can't be boring if it's SEC football. I would maintain that if we were watching the same type of game that we're watching in this one, but instead of the logos we had, I don't know, let's say Penn State versus Wisconsin on it, we would not be excited about the way this gameplay is going to work out at all. Like, Alabama has had some real flashes, I think, that deserve some credit against Georgia and Vanderbilt. They are better this year than I thought they would be to this point. Missouri, you're absolutely right. Their ability to run the football, and frankly, they've been explosive when they needed to. They were explosive versus Kansas, for example. So they've been explosive when they've needed to be. I think all of that makes for entertainment. It just feels like this is going to be handoff 5 yards, handoff 4 yards, handoff 6 yards, handoff 5. I'm going to be bored. I'm going to be bored. That's what makes it a big old juicy fart. Go ahead. You disagree?
You first of all, you don't appreciate running the football enough. Run the damn ball. I do think, though, that this game has the ability to be kind of like what we saw between LSU and Ole Miss in 2023. If you remember that game, it was like 157 to 155. Like, that's what I think this is going to be like. I mean, look, Missouri has a good defense. Take it with a grain of salt because they've played literally nobody. But I think that this is going to be a score, and whoever has possession last wins. And who doesn't love that? And Alabama's not ready for the wrath of mid-Missouri in an AM hour. Come on, 11 a.m. kickoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, that is 11 a.m. kickoffs for the win. You can tell Central Time people. Ohio State, Illinois, Big Ten, or is that like awesome Big Ten or doo-doo big Pig Pen maybe? I like that. Doo-doo Pig Pen instead of awesome Big Ten. What do you think?
No, that's doo-doo big time fart. Big fat fart Big Ten doo-doo. Look, thank you. This game's gonna be boring. This game's going to be so boring.
Illinois is going to get boat raced, right? Like, we agree Illinois is going to get boat raced in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go.
I think Ohio State covers that 14.5 points, right? I don't see how Illinois scores in this game. Like, this defense is insane between, Caleb Downs and Sonny Dykes. This is an Ohio State defense that might be even better. Sonny Styles, not Sonny Dykes. Sonny Styles. This is a defense that I think is better than the championship defense last year.
Look, I do believe, I'm not one for disrespect or we're not talking enough. I do believe that there's a small element here of, man, Ohio State's not getting nearly the love that most number one teams get. Like, I feel like every week we're sitting here talking about who should be number one, and I don't see Ohio State listed the same way. To me, this is that moment where they're going to come out and they're going to prove it. This is one of those, there's 3 minutes to go in the first and it's 21-0 sort of things. Like, the explosiveness, the speed, the size on both sides, like the better roster, the better coach, the better explosiveness, the better everything. And this is to Ohio State.
This is big noon, no? Looks like it.
Yeah, I think it is big noon. Yeah.
I think this is going to be one of those games that's hyped up because it's big noon, because big noon will be there. But I think it'll be one of those games that's like, why did we hype this game up? Why did we think this game was going to be close? What in the world were we thinking? It was a blowout all along. And I think the point spread just kind of proves that.
Yeah, 100%. The point spread of 14.5. The over-under on that, too, 49.5. I think that's an interesting line to me. All right, she's Caroline Fart, and I'm Jason Farts. All right, there we go. Can't wait. That was
there it is. Can't wait.
Nothing but an
Can't
adult.
wait.
Nothing but an adult. Can't wait. Love you, Bart Scott. We will. We're going to keep doing this because, frankly, it's fun. So we'll see if we can figure out more Bart or Farts coming at you in the future. In the meantime, we got picks to make. We will get some picks for you out there coming up next.
Can't wait.
Don't forget Fantasy Football Live every Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, all the way up to 1 p.m. We got some of the best fantasy football experts in all of the land, and we get you everything that you need to know, from the actives and inactives to live game updates when we have early international action. Great way to get your roster set up and have some fun. It's full 90 minutes, and we have a great time. So I hope you'll come hang out with us wherever you get your Fantasy Football Live content. You can do it on YouTube. You can also check us out, yahoosports.tv, and across all of the networks. No word on if Bart Scott's going to join us, but I can tell you this. I'm going to send that segment to Bart. We're just going to see if we can get him to pop on with us and maybe give us his own
this
Bart
your
of Bart.
official invitation, Bart.
Good
Can't
sir,
wait.
we would love for you to come on the show. All right, let's get to picks. Begrudgingly for me, because Caroline Fenton, I have to admit, I was out here swaggy walking because I was having a good year, and I have fallen apart. And you, my friend, are on a roll. You were undefeated last week, 6-0. Talk your talk.
Perfect 6-0 last week. And let the record show who picked the Bucks last week. Your girl picked the Bucks last week. Who did the impossible? The Florida Gators, with Billy Napier on the hot seat and a quarterback that can't stop throwing the ball to their team to beat the big bad Texas Longhorns. Your girl did. Perfect 6-0 last week. Suck it, Jason Fitz. We're running it back this week too.
You know what? I'll be honest. Like when we started the prep for the pick six this week, I was like, no, I'm gonna take a minute. We're gonna think about this for a second. I got my butt whooped last week.
We're not just willy-nilly picking.
Yeah. No. We got skin in the game at this point. Georgia at Auburn. What do you got?
Yeah, Georgia. I would love to get cute with this one. I would love to say, Auburn, behind the scenes has really been, making improvements. No, Georgia's going to win this game. This is not the same Georgia team of 2021 and 2022, but this is still a very good Georgia team. I think Georgia wins this one pretty handedly.
I think the fact that they aren't the same Georgia team of 21-22 is part of what motivates Georgia moving forward throughout the course of the season. They feel like they lost their wiggle room, and they have one of the best motivating coaches when it comes to that. Georgia rolls in this one. I like Georgia to win pretty handily. Lions at Chiefs. What do you got for us there?
My head tells me the Lions will win this game because the Lions are the best team in the NFL. They look like the best team in the NFL, and the Chiefs have been struggling mightily. But doesn't this just feel like the time when the Chiefs prove everybody wrong? When you feel so confident in who you think the best team in the league is, and then something, they put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it, and you have yourself a Missy Elliott game. I think that's exactly what happens this weekend, especially with the game being in Kansas City. So I will take Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to beat the Lions, and then we have a serious conversation about who, in fact, is the best team in the league on Monday.
My mind's telling me no. Look, I hear you on that, but I'm going all Lions. My body's telling me Lions, and my body's telling me Lions, and I'm not even going to look, the Lions right now.
And your hips don't lie.
Look, they don't. And at some point, it's about explosiveness, right? The Lions are going to put up points. The absolute historic spin they're on right now, like, I'm half joking, but Ben Johnson, system coach, who knows? I mean, all I know is that Amon-Ra St. Brown said all summer, we still got dogs in this locker room. And by God, he was right. I think the Lions will roll in this. The Lions are going to score a lot of points, which puts pressure on the Chiefs to do the same. The Chiefs will be better equipped to handle that in a month than they are today. So even though I'm not out on the Chiefs, I am out on the Chiefs this week. Michigan at USC. What do you got in that one?
It's a long road trip. Trust me. Every Big Ten coach has told us how hard it is to go west or east, depending on, where you are. I'm taking Michigan to win this one. I would love to see a bounce back for USC after losing to Illinois, but USC really struggled to run the ball against Illinois. That's a really good Illinois front seven that can stop the run. Well, Michigan's is better. Michigan is better at stopping the run. So I think that it could have the makings of being not just a repeat of what we saw from USC Illinois last week, but an even more dominant victory over USC, because I think that Michigan team is just better than Illinois is. So I will take Michigan and Bryce Underwood.
I think the kickoff in the West Coast, that stuff always makes me a little nervous, fully acknowledging that.
Yeah.
But as we talked about earlier in the week, defense travels, right? And so I got to figure out, do I trust their defense to be out there early in this game? I do. I think they'll be fine. Michigan wins this game, although I think it's going to be a pretty good game. And let's see what it means for Bryce Underwood. Bryce cannot make mistakes in this game. All right. Seahawks at Jags, maybe the best NFL game of the weekend to some. Definitely a big one. Seahawks and Jags. What do you got?
Taking the Jags. Everything tells me that the Seahawks defense is more reliable, and that's much easier to buy into. I don't know what it is about this Jags team. Every single week, I feel like they're playing drunk football, and they find ways to win. They force turnovers. They capitalize on those turnovers. Doesn't matter if Trevor Lawrence looks like a baby deer out there falling, getting back up, and then falling again. He finds himself in the end zone. So I'm riding with what feels like the team of destiny. Jaguars, America's team. I'll take the Jags at home.
The Jags do one thing on defense better than anybody else this year, and that's create turnovers. Sam Darnold at times still throws stupid picks. There's only been a couple of them this year. I can't always put it on him, but that's been the difference maker. I just think the Jags are going to force a mistake, and that's going to be it. Bama, Missouri. You just said you were speaking highly of Missouri. Are you going to go there? Is it going to be the official pick, Caroline Fenton?
Of course it is. I said it, and I now back it up. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I think Missouri wins this football game. They haven't really been in any of those big-time, primetime games because they haven't really played anyone other than Kansas. So I don't think people realize how good this Missouri team is. Bo Prabula is putting together a Heisman Trophy caliber type of resume. Ahmad Hardy, the running back, is doing the exact same thing. I mean, Ahmad Hardy is running it for 7 yards a crack. He has 730 yards on the season. 730 yards on the season. We're through 6 weeks, Fitz. It's crazy. And one thing that I know this Alabama team is struggling to do is stop the run. That's what Missouri does best. Now, I'm not going to say Columbia, Missouri is a hard place to play, but being on the road in the SEC is always going to be difficult. I think Missouri wins this one. It will be close. There will be a lot of points scored, but I'm going to take the Tigers.
If I walk in the room and Caroline Fenton kicks me in the no-no places once, and then the next time I walk into the room, she kicks me in the no-no places again, I'm not going to walk into the room a third time. I picked against Bama against Georgia. I picked against Bama against Vandy. Not going to do it a third time. I got Bama winning this. 49ers at Bucks. Are we both going Bucks here? I think like the injuries of the 49ers, we both going Tampa Bay?
Yeah. I'm riding with Baker to the very end. Tampa Bay, baby. Tampa Baker, if you will.
Baker, the Bucks maker. I'm workshopping this live as we go. So, I don't know. We can go with that. Look, the 49ers should get a lot of credit for what they've done with all the injuries, but Caroline, I just can't bank against them
100%.
Against this Tampa Bay team.
Yeah, this has been, it's funny to call the 49ers plucky, but they have found a way. And Mac Jones, I think, has been the perfect backup quarterback for San Francisco, both in the way that he's played and the way that he's talked about Brock Purdy, that he understands his role. So, yes, all credit in the world to the Niners, but Bucks win this one here.
We will talk our talk on Monday because we'll be back right here at 9 a.m. Eastern, all the way from 9 to 11 as we are every single day. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks so much for watching. Have a safe weekend. See you Monday.